Hey there, how you doing? So I've been meaning to record something about April for quite some time, and if you're part of my community, you'll know that we had a pretty tumultuous start to April, and a very almost fatal cat injury really stopped me in my tracks. So I had these slides all ready to record something, and I'm only just recording it now on the 15th, halfway through April. So please forgive that. But I wanted to still tuck into this whole message because we are really at a threshold in April. And, you know, as thresholds go, you know, it's obviously a turning point of some sort. And, you know, I do think there's an even stronger one coming in July. And there are some very decisive times, you know, later on this year. But April is a threshold of sorts. And so what I want to do is just break down the four key parts, these stages of this period of time we're going through, this Aries immersion. It's kind of like a crucible, and I'll explain that later. But you know, it's a real kind of trial by fire kind of energy that we're going through right now. And so I wanted to pace you through these four distinct stages so that you can really map yourself over the next couple of weeks. You know, this is really taking us from right now until the end of the month. So hopefully it's going to be helpful. If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name is Louisa. I like to talk about astrology as much as I can. You know, I'm a busy mum and I run a community and client work, so I don't get on YouTube as much as I'd like. But when I do, I like to really share my thoughts about the patterns that are upcoming, you know, because I'm really fascinated by astrology and I want to share it as far and wide as I can. So bear with me if I geek out a little bit at some bits because I do that a little bit. And if you like the way I do things, don't forget to hit subscribe because that always helps me. Anyway, enough on that. So what are these four stages? That's what I want to run through today. And I should also say this will culminate with a short reading for each sign of the zodiac. Now, when I'm talking, you know, like it's for Aries, Taurus, Gemini, etc., etc., I'm not talking about your sun sign, but I'm talking about your rising sign or your ascendant. Now, hopefully you know that. I'm sure you already do if you're watching this channel. But if you don't know your ascendant or your rising sign, then why not go to www.astro.com or www.astro-seek.com, and all you need is your time, place, and date of birth. And you pop it in, set up a profile, and it will tell you what your ascendant is. So all of the forecasts that follow on this will be ascendant forecasts to guide you through what might be going on. So anyway, let's have a look. Let's see my slides. So yes, I've already said this, we're at a threshold. And I just want to show you the pattern that's really initiating now in April, and also what is going to become our lived experience come July and August. So you can see here, in fact, as of today, Mercury has just, I'm recording this on the 15th of April, Mercury has just gone into the sign of Aries. And so, you know, communications are likely to be a lot more fiery, a lot more direct. You know, people are going to say things and, you know, seek apology later if necessary. You know, things are going to get a lot more direct. But now we've also got, you know, we've got 7 things in the sign of Aries. So we've got Neptune and Mercury, we've got Mars and Saturn. This is actually the chart for the new moon, by the way. The moon's not here just yet. It's just going in as well. But we've got the sun, the moon, Chiron, Saturn, Mars, Mercury, and Neptune. What you can see here is this very, very intense conjunction, you know, with planets from 2 to 7 degrees in the sign of Aries. In fact, today with Mercury and the moon there, we've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets between 0 degrees and 7 degrees. You know, I haven't seen anything like that in my lifetime. I'm pretty sure of it, you know, and I've followed astrology. Well, I first got my, like, I first looked at my chart when I was about 11, you know, so I bought a little astrology compendium and I sort of pieced together my chart, you know, with a compass and like calculated it all myself. I've not really seen a time like this where we've had 5 things within a few degrees of each other. That is insanely strong. And then to have a new moon in the same sign a couple of days later is just, wow, off the scale. So yeah, very, very decisive energy right now in the sign of Aries. And of course, the Aries story is going to come out as I talk about this. But you'll also see, and this is even more interesting, I think, we've got an ongoing trine from Pluto to Uranus. I know I've mentioned it before. This is transformational and also innovative. We are absolutely kind of breaking down and breaking through in our lives. The structures are being transformed and we're being inventive and we're looking at how we can feel more free. Like Uranus is there to liberate us and to help us see a much bigger picture and a much bigger possibility. So these two are actually working with, currently, as of today, the moon, Neptune, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. Is nuts. So these are all really working together. This is called a minor grand trine, by the way, and we're going to see quite a lot of them this year. Now, by the time we get to July, we got a number of things happening. Now, this is even rarer, I would say, because although I have seen similar with 1, 2, 3 of these points. I have seen similar, but not quite the same. But we have got, at the end of July, we've got Pluto at 4 degrees, Neptune at 4 degrees, Uranus at 4 degrees. And then we've also got the Sun and Jupiter at 4 and 5 degrees. The day before, Jupiter was at 4 degrees. So we have got this very perfect alignment or kind of design. This is like sacred geometry. We've got this very perfect alignment. Now, here we've got a minor grand trine. It's not exact. It goes from 5 degrees to 2 degrees or 5 degrees to 7 degrees and then to 29 degrees. These aspects here are 60 degrees. But here it's like more or less. There's a little, it's called an orb in astrology, but it's like we give a little bit of error either side, so we allow, that's the word I'm looking for. There's an allowance either side of a couple of degrees. But here we have got an exact minor grand trine, and here we've got a minor grand trine that's also exact. So we've got two of them all exact. And just to put it into an even deeper context, if we're looking at the solar system, Pluto is the furthest that we're considering. Pluto's funny because, when I grew up, he was a planet, then he wasn't a planet. And now who knows? I still count him as a planet. He's really important, though I think he's also a dwarf planet. But Pluto's vital. And if you've had Pluto go over an important part of your chart, you absolutely do feel him. You do feel his presence. So, you got Pluto at the far end of the kind of known or spoken about or taught at school solar system. Then we've got Neptune, the next one from the end, and then we've got Uranus. These are our 3 transpersonal planets. They're not really part of our personality, but they really show things that kind of change us or impact us from afar. So it's not really generated from us, but it's coming into our field of understanding. And then, if we come back through the planets, you'd have Saturn and Jupiter. They're our bridging planets. They're kind of social planets. They work with the transpersonals, and they also work with the personal planets, which would be the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And so we've got the 3 transpersonals, and we've got one of these bridging planets, and we've also got the Sun. I mean, it's insane. Now, let's also consider another thing, which you may or may not already be aware of. That week, the North Node is also changing signs and going into the sign of Aquarius. So there's also a nodal change going on at the end of July. So what's going on right now, I believe firmly, is setting the scene of an intention. It's really calling us to ask, what energy do you stand for? What's really firing up in you? And if it's real, let's test it. And also, if we go down the path we're going to go down from April onwards, by July, not only is it our lived experience, but it's really starting to rapidly move forwards. So there's this very strong energy with all of these planets working so gracefully together. It's absolutely going to be creating a kind of zippy effect. This is called a sextile. That's a sextile. This is a sextile. They are our worker bees of aspects. They work hard. They give us, they provide us with opportunities, but you have to grasp them and you have to take them. You can't just like have an opportunity but do nothing with. The sextiles are asking us to do some work. And then the trines are showing us kind of like a bit of grace from God, like where something really falls into place. You don't actually have to reach for it, but it could have really great results. So with these 2 trines and 3 sextiles, that's fantastic. Now it is also capped off with this opposition. And I love the hard aspects actually, because the oppositions make things seem like you've got a choice of just 2 things. You either go this way towards Pluto or you go this way to the Sun and Jupiter. When actually to work out these 2 different options, and the Sun Jupiter in Leo is like, hey, I'm really going to build myself up and really get excited about myself. And then Pluto in Aquarius is like, no, big picture, we're transforming the world here. And so it's like, oh gosh, where do I sit on this cosmic dilemma right now? And so actually everything is coming back. We really need to integrate this, but I digress. Where we are right now is at a real strong focal point. And if we use this energy well, it will help us come July and August so we can zoom ahead, almost like get into a superior flow. That's how I'm seeing it. That's my read for it. And I should say, I'm an intuitive astrologer. Yes, I studied, and yes, I've been studying my whole life after my studies. And I've been working with real life clients for over 15 years now. This is a lifelong endeavor, to be honest. I drive people nuts about this, but I'm more like, I see a chart and I get pulled in. I look at everything from an astrological eye, but I always include my intuitions as well. So you might find not everyone agrees with what I say, but anyway, so that's the sort of overview that I see, these 2 really big times, and then there's some more coming, but let's pace our way through this. You don't need to see the full picture just yet, but just enough to get you to the next stage. But right now, over the next 2 weeks, and forgive me, this has already passed, but we're right here actually on April the 15th, and I've separated what I see coming up into 4 there's 4 fingers, 4 distinct times, with a very sort of distinct purpose. And so I see the first part of this is like the gathering of energy coming together in Aries. And we've already been living this, and it's already been coming together, and we've got a couple more days of it. So the gathering. So what's happened? We've had Mars going into Aries. We've had Mercury going into Aries today. But we've also had Mars making a conjunction with Neptune, and we will also happen, on the 17th, the day of the new moon, there'll be Mercury making a conjunction with Neptune. Now, this is interesting. This is happening at 2 degrees. Neptune's at 2 degrees at the moment. So it's a very important degree for us, because some real important stuff's happening. First of all, Mars in Aries. Mars rules Aries. He knows how to make a defense, knows how to come into a fight if there needs to be a fight. He's like right there. He doesn't apologize necessarily. Like he goes straight forward into what he needs to do. He doesn't mince words. He just gets on with the task. And this is also about our level of vitality, especially if you've got a 6th house or something important in the sign of Aries. Mars coming into Aries is going to really turbocharge that that part of your chart where Aries is. So you'll feel stronger, much stronger, and much more strident. You'll probably feel quite brave and courageous as well. So this is a really strong feeling coming in. And then Mercury today comes into Aries, and boom, you know, we're now talking with strength and energy too. Should also add the moon's here as well, so that's really firing up both Mars and Mercury, because there's nothing more than, you know, a bit of emotion to really get things moving, you know, with Mars. Boy oh boy. But Mars conjunct Neptune, you know, here we take action about our spiritual values. Mercury conjunct Neptune, we can really articulate what is important about our values and our vision. You know, Neptune, it's not just values and ideals and perception, and it's more than that. It's our spirituality, it's our compassion, our forgiveness, our higher heart function. You know, Venus is our terrestrial, earthbound heart function. You could say Neptune is our cosmic one, and there's another one as well. If you go to the dwarf planets and trans-Neptunian objects, you'll have an even higher version of the heart function. But you know, Neptune is a cosmic heart. This is our access to unconditional love. This is the urge to merge. This is the oneness that so many people talk about, especially in these kinds of circles. You know, the oneness, the serenity, the peace that people are wanting. And so now, interestingly, there's taking action to create peace as an energy right now. Mars conjunct Neptune. Mercury, we're talking and taking action with words to create peace or oneness or a feeling of merge, you know, to feel connected, like we are a collective. And so I really do see that we've got this gathering energy, and it's been taking place already since last week. We're still in it because things are still gathering and coming together. But essentially, it's a building up of the raw energy, that raw Aries energy that dares us to have a bigger dream, a lot more courage. It's speeding up that feeling of urgency, you know, like that we can't wait. Like if there's something that really feels urgent to you, to do with your life, I mean, this is absolutely waking it up. It's as if the clock has just started to tick faster and you're just feeling into the speed of it, and it's like, whoa, got to do something. And so to me, this gathering of planets in the sign of Aries is absolutely taking us into the ingredients that we need and the thoughts that we need to make a big decision. So if you've been feeling a little on edge, it's because you're sensing there's a decision to be made. Does that make sense? So yeah, there's the gathering that's been going on. Now, the second stage, as I see it, is coming in. In fact, I've got it. I mean, these are all the different dates and things, but I've got it explained here as a storyline. So the gathering, we've looked at that. Part two, the ignition, the decision, it's coming in as of tomorrow, the 16th, when the sun makes an exact conjunction with Chiron. That's the last one in the sign of Aries until, you know, Chiron comes back into Aries in about 50 years time, or just less than that. But you know, right now we have got the last conjunction between the sun and Chiron in Aries. It's completing and closing 8 cycles of this. So 8 years worth of healing, or 8 years worth of a raw pain or something that's been going on. You know, every time the sun and Chiron come together, it's giving us a new decision point on our healing journey. Now, that could be your spiritual healing, your emotional, your physical, or all. It could be family healing. It could be so much. And of course, Chiron isn't just about healing. He's also about facing yourself and transmuting the pain or the experience so that it disappears, you know, so it gets processed, so that it gets released. And that's the most important part. And of course, when it gets released, you have that, you become the mentor, you become the healed, you become the person that faced themselves and went even deeper and got the answer. You know, this is where I'm starting to get a bit geeky now, like my hands are all everywhere. So, this is, I think, important. We are on a precipice of letting go of something that's held us back for 8-9 years. It's impressive. And then the very next day, we've got the new moon in Aries. Again, it's giving us a decision, a realization, a willingness for a new start, where you choose and you say, this is what I'm doing. It really is agency. I mean, this week is all about stepping into your agency, so that you make a decision that's going to clear a time of uncertainty. So they're the first 2 stages, and they're really upon us, by Friday. I think a lot of us will have made a decision. We'll be saying, and we might not even be consciously aware that a decision needs to happen, but all of a sudden you'll hear yourself say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And then you're like, oh, wow, it felt really easy to make that decision. Why didn't I make it before? It could very well surprise you. So there's this gathering of energy, and then this ignition point where you make a decision. Then, and this is the sticky part. So, I mentioned that that we've got this conjunction here between Neptune and Mercury and Mars and Saturn. Well, next week, there's going to be a short space of time where Mercury makes a conjunction with Mars, and also makes a conjunction with Saturn, and also Mars makes a conjunction with Saturn. So suffice to say, all 3 of them within 24 hours make a conjunction. That means that space between them is minuscule. And I really love the degree where they're all coming together at. That's 7 degrees. So you've got 7, 7, 7, all 3 of them at 7, 7, 7. I love power numbers, and 7, 7, 7 feels pretty divine to me. I love them. So this is very powerful. Saturn, is a real stickler for rules, regulations, and valuing and measuring things, and, cutting things off. He's got scythe, remember, he is sort of associated with old Father Time. He's a hard act to impress, and actually he doesn't really like ass lickers at all. So Saturn, is very stern, can be kind as well, but like an authoritative kind, like a kindly grandpa. Saturn is elderly, this energy of experience, hard won experience. Now Mars is like this jippy little, young thing coming in, like really strong, knows how to defend, knows what to do. It's kind of like a soldier. Mars is really our vitality. It's the fight within us. So, first of all, we've got these 2 characters. So Saturn, that's the maturity in us, the elder in us, the grown up in us, the adult in us. And Mars is that part of us that fights for something. The 2 of them together are pretty formidable. And then you've got Mercury. And so our thoughts, our words, our way of transacting with the world, like buying and selling and wheeling and dealing and moving around, and they're all working together. So it feels like a very potent time. So if we go back to my little storyline here, I've called this the Crucible, because the Crucible is traditionally a vessel, like something that holds things, a vessel marked with a cross. And it also reminds me of the Crucible, the Arthur Miller play. If you've seen it, it's really good. I saw it. I can't remember where I saw it. I saw it in England in a beautiful open theatre. But anyway, it's a trial by fire. If you know the Crucible, this is where things become accountable all of a sudden. It's like everything is in the Crucible, ready to be stirred in, ready to be examined, ready to be mixed together, ready to be tested. And of course, in Arthur Miller's Crucible, things mount up. There's this storyline, where it's villagers against villagers, one saying, "You're a witch, burn the witch." And these witches are on a very unfair trial, and it's a trial by fire. If you don't pass, you're going to get burnt alive. And so this Crucible, this is a pressure point time that we're coming up to, and it's on the 19th, 20th. That's when it's really exact, but you'll feel it like getting stronger and stronger and stronger as we are coming into Sunday and into Monday. So it's a pressure point. And I think we become aware of the true cost of the decision we are making. Often we make a decision and then later we go, oh, crap. Oh, damn, I didn't think that through. And then you're like, oh, maybe I'm not going to. And you kind of walk your way back through that decision. But I really think, the decisions that are coming up right now feel very strong and very much aligned. And so, as we're coming up to this kind of crucible moment, this pressure point moment, it's time for us to realize the consequences of our commitment to, what we think is right. We're going to be refining. We're going to be looking at where our impulse to make a decision meets head on with reality. And there are always consequences. And so, the question you'll be asking is, do we still choose this? Do we mean it? Have we got what it takes to be able to carry the message that we're carrying, or to carry the vibration, the frequency that we're carrying? Every decision, sorry, this is where I'm getting really freaky and hippie now. Everything that we decide about ourselves and we perceive in the world, I truly believe it's felt as a frequency around us. And so do you have what it takes to carry that goddamn frequency? Can you do it? And then we come into a time where things are going to release. So between the 24th and 26th, we've got Venus and I'll show you. See, we've got Venus and Uranus here. And over the course of this week, Venus is going to get closer and closer and closer to Uranus. They're going to make a conjunction almost at the very last, nanosecond of Taurus, so at 29 degrees, anaretic degree. It's known for being a very unstable degree. So Venus is going to make a conjunction with Uranus. This is exciting, but this also could have some very big ramifications in terms of money systems. I might have mentioned this in another video. I know years ago when Uranus first went into Taurus, I spoke about what had happened in the previous time Uranus had gone into Taurus, 80 years before or whatever. Uranus changes the way our financial structures go. It can get tokenized and all sorts of different things. And I know there's a rush by lots of governments. I've heard that. I don't know if it's true or not, but it certainly seems to be, the idea that there are digital IDs that give us access to our own money. Heaven forbid that we need an extra layer of something before we can access something that actually belongs to us anyway. But that's by the by. But yeah, Venus, which rules Taurus. She's about abundance, ease, love, connection, but abundance and the flow of abundance, meeting Uranus, shock. He's a planet of shock and innovation and also technology. They come together at the last degree of Taurus. The same day on the 24th, Venus then goes into Gemini and she goes, God, that was stressful. And then she starts to get a bit excited because in the sign of Gemini, she's quite light. And then 2 days later on the 26th, Uranus comes over into Gemini, and that's when things really start to change. And so we've got this build up. So if I go back again, the gathering of the Aries energy that's kind of brewing and making us mad or hot or, just stirred up a little bit, enough that we want to make a decision about something. Then around the new moon, it's a decision time. We're changing our thoughts about who we are and our identity. That really fits with the Sun and Chiron conjunction. Then we're coming to a time where it gets even more pressured, and we start to say, can we actually cope with this decision? Do we mean it? Are we serious about it? Are we going to really put some muscle into it and some maturity and some determination and discernment into it? And then if we are, then it's the breakout, the 24th, 26th. The energy is electrifying. So it's a release, it's a redirect, so we're going from the Aries time, which is all fire, and now we're going into air. This is a time in the sign of Gemini. This is distribution, this is expression, so whatever has been created in the fire is now going to get released through the air. You can't hold it. It has to move. It's time to release it. So this is a huge stage in our evolution, as you can see. So when I say what's initiated in April, I really do think it's big. It's huge. And, maybe your own individual life looks a bit calm, even though you can probably see what I'm talking about mirrored in the world right now from what you might hear on world news. So yes, things are about to pick up and then really pick up, and then they're going to start, like, we're going to run with it. And then if we're still liking it and we can still keep up with the pace and we're not going, oh my God, I just need to catch my breath, then, we're going to be going up another notch when it comes to July and August. So there's a lot changing right now, and it all starts with you. As all good change does, it always starts with us. Okay, so for this, I'm using Linda Hill's amazing website, sabiansymbols.com. Not to be mistaken with Sabian symbols, different Sabian symbols like symbols that you use in drumming. You could absolutely get that mixed up, but don't. So we've got Mercury conjunct Neptune and also Mars conjunct Neptune at 2 degrees Aries. So as ever, you put 2 degrees Aries into Linda's website and it will always get rounded up to the next number. That's how it's meant to be. Okay. So 3 Aries. So this energy to do with the gathering of energy that's coming up in all of our lives right now. This is a channeled message about that particular degree out of all the 360 degrees, all the degrees. This is the message. So, and sometimes they're a bit cryptic, but I think we can have some fun with it. A cameo shows the profile of a person that suggests the outline of their country. Okay, that's quite cryptic. This symbol shows that there is a need for an objective awareness of how your life fits into the larger picture. How do you and others fit into this situation? Does your profile define you in a different way from what you'd like? Or are you happy with your image? I'm laughing because I'm just thinking, I'm answering that to myself in my head. You may find you have a more important role than you previously thought. Imprint your mark on life by becoming a shining example of your country, tradition, beliefs, or culture. However, try not to become too identified with externals or seeking recognition from the people around you. Observing one's limitations, living a transpersonal life, allegiances of creed, religion, race, country, nationhood, brotherhood, finding one's place in the world. That's really cool. It's an interesting one for me because I'm a Brit, but I live in Portugal. And recently I'm feeling so much more like I'm aligned with Portugal. Like I'm really feeling that now. So yeah, maybe that's answering that for me. And maybe I need to integrate a lot more. I think I'm ready for that now. Where it goes a bit wrong, blindly following the dogma of government or officials, stereotyping oneself or others by what one has achieved, how much we earn, own, or owe. So that's great because this particular gathering of energy is leading up to, the new moon and, tomorrow's Sun Chiron conjunction, which I think is all about releasing something from our identity. So this really matches actually. So that's great. Let me I've got so many slides here. The Sun Chiron conjunction, though, I didn't share this in my new moon video, so I want to share it here. So it's 26 Aries. So this is about our identification, how we identify, our traumas, what healing stuff has been going on. So through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. This symbol shows the talent or ability to be able to use our inner creative energy to revitalize ideas or opportunities that seem to be lost. Whatever it is you need to do, believe that it is possible and create an image in your mind, and you'll almost certainly succeed at gaining it or recovering it. always take heart. There is energy here to recapture things that seem to be lost. Visualizing what you want, allowing time, and watching for it to manifest can bring astounding results. Sometimes, however, the lost opportunities regained are in a different form than we had first imagined. Creative imagination and visualization, hope renewed, second chances, last-minute reprieves, being forgiven or pardoned, imagineering, that's a good word, making up for losses. And where it goes wrong is if we use this energy to rely on self-pity, which denies using the imagination to recover, not noticing solutions to problems, going over and over lost opportunities. Well, again, that really fits. We've got the last Sun conjunction to Chiron in Aries. This is our huge cosmic nudge to get through, like to recognize something, a situation can be released. Maybe it's just not us anymore. Maybe we've grown beyond it, and we can see something else. But this is implying that you might need some imagination as well to assist. So the next Sabian symbol would be for when things start to whip up into a frenzy. Now, I have seen this one before, actually, because I was using it in somebody's reading recently, and it's deliciously descriptive. So this is for the Mars, Mercury, Saturn conjunction, like 777. A woman's hat with streamers blown by the east wind. Now, I love that. It just sounds really cool. So this is saying, allow traditional wisdom to lead you to new and different solutions, but be wary of acting superficially. In deeper spiritual messages, you are afforded protection from the more disturbing elements of situations. Shifts of mind and attitude may happen as a result. Indeed, they may need to happen. You may need to adjust continually to outside forces, but you have the ability to be adaptable. So hang on to your center and what anchors you, and try not to get blown off course. Attuning oneself through Eastern philosophies, protective guidance, balloons and hot air ballooning, the winds of time and change, being aware of the shifts in the wind. So to me, this is reminding us that we need to be aware of our course. So as I'm interpreting this, we're gathering in energy, and oh crikey, that first one was suggesting that our profile or how we appear in the world, our identity is shifting. Then we're coming to the time where we might be making a decision about ourselves and our life and how we might go about doing it. And the advice here is to use your imagination to be able to push through and see that new opening. And then as things start to get really forceful around the 19th and 20th, we're encouraged to stay the course, to recognize where we're going and to not allow ourselves to get blown off course. This is really asking us to have laser-like focus. And of course, with Mars, Mercury, and Saturn in sign of Aries, it doesn't really get more laser-like than that. I mean, it's pretty strong. So, be aware of Eastern philosophy, be aware of philosophy, be aware of spiritual messages, but don't let yourself get blown off course. And where this degree goes a little wonky is when we're only accepting solutions that satisfy selfish or social needs, insincerity, and easily being blown around, losing one's rudder. So to me, this is talking about our moral compass, but maybe not a moral compass that's going to make us miserable, but a moral compass that is nourishing, is helpful. Obviously, if it's one that's impoverishing us, we're not going to stick it, are we? We're not going to hold on to it. It will be a very weird relationship to do something that you think is the right thing to do but feels flipping horrible. Nobody can ever really live a great free life whilst doing that. So how can you keep your kind of moral but your happiness rudder aimed directly ahead? So that's great. And the last one I want to have a look at is obviously for this one. When Venus and Uranus, this is the breakout, the breakthrough, where things get exciting. And I think it's going to be like a smorgasbord of opportunities. So Gemini 1, a glass-bottomed boat reveals undersea wonders and panoramas. This symbol speaks of being able to see into things other people don't see. You have the ability, the desire, and the lens to be able to pierce beneath outer levels of things in order to get a grasp on what's going on beneath the surface. It can also show that you look at the issues at hand from an objective, uninvolved perspective. A distant, possibly uninvolved position is probably much safer for you and the situation you are observing. It may be that situations are often out of your natural environment, so this is much safer for you and those things that you are observing or watching. Seeing things that are not usually observable. That's interesting. Clairvoyance, connecting with the collective unconscious, spiritual gifts, enlarging perspective, vehicles of discovery, lenses. So this, not only, this is about our ability to appreciate and kind of change. Like Venus is very appreciative and very much about the flow and the loving flow of abundance. And if we turn off our ability to flow, we're kind of shutting down our abundance. So Venus is really flowing, coming together with Uranus. This could be an unexpected flow of something, an unexpected positive change. This could be quite exciting if you're meeting somebody new at that time, by the way. But at the same time that you're reconnecting to flow, you've got the opportunity to spot something new. And at this time when we're breaking through, things are going to be moving very, very fast. When Uranus went into Gemini last year, I remember feeling quite breathless. Like so much was happening. I remember after about 3 weeks of it, needing to rework my diary. All of a sudden I needed a week off because I was already so full of ideas and stuff that it was overwhelming. So I do think there's going to be a lot of stuff coming in based on everything else that you've created already, like where you've created the intention and where you've created the excitement behind the scenes. All of it's going to start to manifest quite quickly. So yeah, you're going to really see things. If you're ready to see solutions, you'll see solutions. If you're ready to see what's holding you down or, what's that snag that, is holding you back, you'll see them. This is a very, very exploratory time. And where it goes a bit wonky is where we're putting up a barrier of social safety to avoid involvement in deeper emotions and their complications, separation and estrangement because of distance. So this is saying, there is distance and it allows you to have that third party perspective, but don't allow your distance to grow. If it's growing into a massive distance, then that energy is really playing out of context. So they are the Sabian symbols. I hope they were helpful. What I'm going to do now then is get back to the star signs, the forecast. So I'm just going to change my view quickly. So for Aries then, if you've got Aries rising, a really strong Aries energy, then the gathering and the ignition and the sort of testing of your strength, it's all happening in this part of your chart, which is about identity. I should say, actually, before I get going, this is based on a whole sign Western tropical model. If you use Placidus, have a look in your first house. And you might see that you've got Aries and you've also got Taurus in your first house. If that's the case, then also listen to Taurus too. Whatever's in your first house is what you should listen to. So anyway, if you've got Aries ascendant, this is all landing in this part of your chart about yourself, your identity, who you are, how people experience you. To me, this is realizing you're a very different person than the one that existed 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And so it's a time to get up to date with, who you are, so the illusions are dropping and your sense of survival is rising and you're asking, what am I made of? Well, that's for you to decide. It really is. This is also very much about your body. Your body awareness is going to be huge at this time as well. It's going to be encouraging you to get fit. It's going to be encouraging you to maybe change the way you look. And you might find that you're toning a lot better at the moment with all these planets in your first house. especially Mars in Aries. This is a time when you might want to get physically strong and to feel really courageous. This might be a time when you're recreating your image to be that of somebody with courage, to be that of someone with conviction. And so, yeah, you probably will get tested on it. So I do recommend not going hell for leather at something. Sometimes, when we've got strong stuff in the first house, I've got my Mars in the first house as well. We tend to burn out quite quickly because you have so much energy that you go, 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 go. And then all of a sudden you have this massive collapse. So probably you don't want to do that, but the temptation will be massive. So that could test you. And you might want to measure your growth in terms of how much vitality you've got, and how much charisma, like how much kind of magnetic charisma do you have right now? Because that's when you've recreated yourself in the way that you really want to be. And yeah, can you start over? Well, this new moon in your first house is definitely saying, yes, you can. You can really recreate that image of yourself. Now, where it's heading to with the sort of breakout energy coming in at, the end of April as Venus and Uranus head into Gemini, it's encouraging you to express what you've been developing. So all these images and ideas about yourself that have been going on behind the scenes, the next part of your journey is to tell people your story. That's how it's going to move and spread. So you say, like, I've been on this journey. I realize I'd got really kind of stuck in patterns and stuff, and now I realize I've got a lot more courage, I've got a lot more integrity, I've got a lot more passion. I'm really defining myself, and I feel so strong now. I'm ready to kind of shoot forwards. And so this is like and I've put it here, voicing your awakening. You're awakening to a whole new version of yourself. So I think that's quite a strong message. So wishing you lots of love with that, Aries. I hope that goes well for you. Lots of love. Okay, so if you've got Taurus rising, this is a forecast for you. I'm using a Western tropical whole sign model. If when you look at your chart, you use a Placidus model, have a look at your first house and see if you've got Taurus on its own or Taurus and Gemini. Whatever you've got in your first house, basically, you also need to listen to that. So if you've got Taurus and Gemini, also listen to Gemini. Anyway, if you use whole sign, then just stay here in Taurus. So anyway, let's get going. So I'm going to give you the 4 steps as I see them. Step 1 and 2 are kind of happening at the same time. There's a lot going on here in your 12th house. And the 12th house is a place of peace and inner clearing. Now, it probably doesn't feel very peaceful with all these planets in your 12th house right now. Most likely you are looking for as much peace as possible. It's a place where we often have to surrender to things. I always think of the 12th house as being a place that where we might hibernate, where we might relax and release a little bit. To me, it's the place of the unconscious mind, where your memories like suddenly really and vividly come up, I would say, with all these things in your 12th house, especially Neptune, really brings up a lot of a dream state for sure. You're doing a lot of inner work right now. So inner child work is likely to come up. So in terms of what's gathering right now, I suspect what's really gathering for you is a lot of old memories, a lot of old sensations. You're starting to realize the connections between things, like, because this happened, this is my experience. So you're connecting those dots. But like the 12th house, I always think that, this is where we're birthing the first house and we go through our life. And, in many ways, the 12th house is a place where we're dissolving an identity about ourselves. It's almost like part of us is dying. I'm not like talking, physically, but, it's like a death of a particular part of us. There might have been a time when you were all into this relationship and this is what you're about, and actually it's no longer relevant. So you're coming up to a time where there's a very strong change in what's relevant for you. And so right now during this gathering moment and just up until the new moon, I think you're realizing all of these internal pressures you've been living under. And you're now thinking, well, I don't want to have these pressures anymore. I don't need these pressures. I want to live peacefully. I'm going to let this go. So this is really helping you to dissolve that part of yourself that needs to dissolve, but also to face some of the things that may be, these little self-sabotages, and these little programs that you've had running. This is your time to recognize you don't have to have these programs running for you. You can choose something else for yourself, though the temptation is definitely strong. Now, around the time of the new moon, it really is it kind of begging you to rebirth in some way, to at least have a sensation that, you are changing at a level. Now, if you don't really feel like you want to make a big change, why don't you just make a nano change, like a really small change to kind of, to pay it some worth. I lived in Bali for a while, and one of the things I loved about Bali was the offerings that people would put outside temples or outside their homes. People were always making an offering to the god or the energy. I'm not saying a new moon is a god, but maybe make an offering of some sort. Put some flowers down, have a sacred moment, and to recognize that the person you've become kind of ends here because there's something new that's ready to start. This new kind of planting of who you are. And within the next new moon, the next new moon is going to be in your first house. So to me, it feels like you're surrendering, you're drawing something to a close. And by the next new moon in May, you'll be ready to plant new seeds about yourself. So you might be coming into a time of making a decision and then kind of sitting in a empty space for a while life and your intentions start to fill in the pieces. Now, where is this going? The breakout phase is where things are moving and spreading. And so things are actually coming into your second house. The second house, it's about money. And, if you read an astrology book, like A to Z of astrology, you'll hear money. It's all about what you earn. And yes, it could be. But I think there's something much deeper there, and that is how you value yourself. And so, this is about you revaluing yourself and recognizing what you're worth, like your worthiness, your deservability. This is also realigning yourself to your actual values. It's not just about valuing yourself, but what do you value? Most likely your whole value landscape has changed. And so I think you're letting go of an old side of yourself because your values have changed. And as you reassess, you'll be coming into a whole new value. And as you focus on the things that you value and you orient your life towards what you value so much, you'll probably feel your own self-value rise. So this is really good. It's showing what you've outgrown, and it's honoring what truly matters, and you matter. So this is a really deep time for you. So I hope that's helpful to you, Taurus. If I can be of any help, or if you want to look at your chart personally, then just get in touch. All of my details are below. So Gemini, this is a reading for you if you've got Gemini ascendant. Now, this is using a Western tropical whole sign model. Now, what that means is you've got one sign per house. These are the houses, 1, 2, 3, etc., all the way around to 12. If when you look at your birth chart, you see that you've got the symbol for Gemini and also Cancer in your first house, then what that means is you want to listen to this and also listen to Cancer too. Okay. Whatever's in your first house is where you go to. So I'm going to step through these kind of 4 key phases. And you'll see 3 of them are all happening in your 11th house. And the 11th house is a place of vision and friendships and networks. It's also a place where our stepchildren might be and other people's children, it's more philanthropic. It's not about our children. It's about the children of the world, how can your vision expand and do something really beautiful? So the gathering moment, we're in it at the moment. It feels like there's a lot of energy coming in, giving us lots of material to make decisions. It feels like a lot of there's a lot of power to initiate something to do with friendships and alignments, maybe professional ones, maybe friendships, like, when you meet your tribe, like when you meet people because of a similar value, a shared idea, a shared vision. And so there's something gathering about that probably feels quite exciting. So it's a time, I think, of lots of new people coming in and and what does that mean when, sorry, excuse me. What does it mean for you when your friends change? I mean, obviously, that's a knock-on effect, doesn't it? Like your friends change, you shift. So there is something gathering there, and I'm sure you can feel it. Around the time of the 16th with the Sun Chiron conjunction, and then into the 17th with the new moon. To me, this is you saying, okay, I've got this new identity, got these cool new friends, got this cool new vision, and I feel really enlivened with this. This feels great. Thank you. And so that's you saying, yeah, I'm ready. And actually part of my new future is it's involved with other people. I'm not doing this alone. I am making a decision and I've got backing. I've got my bros behind me, or whoever it is. You've got your pack. So to me, this is you recognizing that you've got support, and that maybe you're going to do what you need to do to get support. Now, here's where it's going to get interesting around the 19th to 20th. It may well feel like you don't have support. You might feel like things get a little bit frayed and tense. You might find the people that you trust around you are a little bit nitpicky, because it's a very intense, infused situation. But I would say ride it. If you can handle your new friendships or affiliations at their worst, and you still feel aligned and you still feel like, you can get through this. To me, this is about intimacy, recognizing that you trust yourself enough to be able to get on with people. So I do think it will be worth it. I think there is a test, and you're going to be tested to see if you really are on that journey or not. Now, where is it heading? The breakout of this energy is really transforming in the first house. And so to me, this is saying, I've got my future vision, my friends, my alignment, and this is a reinvention. I'm self-inventing. I've got a new identity. So I become the version of me that matches my future vision and my friendships. So I just think, there's that saying that if you want to know about someone, look at their 5 closest friends. That's what's happening. And it's not a bad thing. This is a great thing. If you've got the right people around you, then you're kind of in safe hands. This is what you're working towards right now. And, at the beginning, I was talking about the difference between April and July. Like July, things are really going to speed up. So if you are in the right company already, that's great, because you're going to have one hell of a ride. So I'm going to leave that there, Gemini. If you want some extra help or advice, if you'd like me to look at your chart specifically, then just get in touch. My details are below, and very happy to help. So lots of love. Bye for now. Okay, Cancer, this is your forecast. So this is your forecast if you've got Cancer rising or Cancer ascendant. It's the same thing. Now, this is using a whole sign Western tropical model. What that means is, if you look at your chart and you've got one sign per house, that's the first house. This is the second house, and you've got Leo there. If you've got one sign per house, then this is absolutely for you. Now, if you look at your first house and you've actually got the sign for Cancer and also the sign for Leo, maybe, then you also need to listen to Leo too. So you've got 2 forecasts to listen to. So I'll leave that with you. You can make that decision. But, what I'm going to be doing here is just talking through these 4 stages of what's going on right now, to kind of pace you through these vastly changing times, and also in a way to make you feel safe, because I know the sort of Cancerian energy is wanting to feel a certain amount of security and safety, for sure. So this is where it's happening. So as you can see, 3 of these steps are taking place in your 10th house. And so what's happening right now, the 10th house is all about your career, how you stand in the world, It's your direction, your visibility. It's also your reputation, and also your responsibility. There's a lot resting on your shoulders, and there's 7 planets in this part of your chart right now. So, um, I imagine your idea on your career is changing, strengthening. Maybe you're getting ready to show up with more courage in your external career world. You may well, because the 10th house is an interesting one, because our bosses live there as well, and also very sort of patriarchal parents, like parents that tell you what to do, absolutely live in the 10th house. In fact, any kind of authority that wants to grind your gears is absolutely going to show up in the 10th house. So, there's this very strong desire to get, have more courage in your outer life, and to show people what you're made of, and to do something very earnestly and with real strength. And so, you might rub a few people up the wrong way. That may well happen. That's one of the risks of having Mars and Saturn going through your 10th house. However, it can be a time when you really distinguish yourself as well, because it shows you've got the balls, you've got the strength to stand and say, no, that's not going to work for me, but let me show you what I think is going to be absolutely great. So, you're very resolute right now about what you're creating. And so right now there's a lot of energy coming up, and most likely it's making you realize you're a different person than the person you were like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like, your idea on your career is really shifting now, and shifting into a place that has a bit more power. So around the time of tomorrow, the Chiron Sun conjunction on the 16th, and then the new moon on the 17th, the new moon in Aries, I think you're going to be bringing these changes into your identity and saying, okay, from now on in, this is my new title, or from now on in, this is what I am focused on. This is my tagline. These are my visions and values, my mission statement, all of that. To me, it feels like you're reorienting yourself so the world can see you and meet you and know who you are, because finally you really feel it. You're really feeling like you know who you are, and yeah, it's time to let the world see that. And then early next week, what test do I need? How do I measure the growth, and will it be worth it? This is a time when you might get tested. So you might get a bit of pushback. You might feel suddenly like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Like when you go out for a work meal and you have a glass of wine or something, you get a bit gobby and you reveal a bit more about yourself, and then you're like, oh God, I can't believe I said that. And you're trying to step back. But, like on the 19th, the 20th, I think the 20th is Monday. Is that right? Yeah. You might think, oh God, I overpromised. Can I deliver this? This is possibly what's going on. So, this is your time to kind of smarten up, pull your big girl's pants up, and say, no, I am up to this. I am absolutely up to this. So if anything, it could be solidifying your energy. So you're like, yes, I've got this. I'm really going to do this. And then, if you still choose to go ahead with your new changes, then you're going to be really breaking out with it. From the 24th, 26th, you got Venus and Uranus coming into your 12th house, which is, it's like the knock on the door of intuition coming into your private life. And so your inner world is going to be enriched by these new decisions. It's so funny because on the one hand, you're talking about your career decision and your visibility. And it's almost like, because you're finally following your path, you can actually, protect your inner world. I think, when you're kind of in the world, but not really being your path, it hurts your soul. It hurts your inner child. So to me, it feels like by declaring who you are in such a public way, you know yourself, and your inner self flourishes from this. So what I see with this is you're honoring your path and actually protecting your inner world at the same time. So I hope that helps. I really do hope that helps, and wishing you loads of luck, because this is a strong place to have this going on. And out of all 12 signs, there are 4 that are going to feel it so much more, and they're the cardinal signs. So Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So you're one of the 4 that are going to really feel this change so much more. So wishing you a safe journey through this Aries period. And if you do want some extra insight or intel, then just invite me to work with you. My details are below. I do private work. So anyway, lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Leo. So let's have a look at what's really going on with this kind of threshold time right now. So what I'm going to do in this short forecast is look at the 4 key steps that I see going on this week and next week that are really launching you forwards with some gusto. So first, before we get going, I just want to say that this is created with a whole sign Western tropical model. And what that means is there's 1 sign per house. So Leo is in the first house, Virgo is the second house, Libra is the third. If when you look at your birth chart, however you look at it, if you see that you've got Leo in the first house, but also some Virgo in the first house, then that's your little nudge to also listen to the Virgo rising forecast too. So anyway, let's get going. So you can see here that we've got the gathering of Aries energy, and also that ignition point where you might make a decision about your life and your identity, all kind of taking place right now. I'm actually recording this on the 15th. And, it feels like over the last week, lots of information has been gathered and sort of like coming into your level of experience. And all of that is coming to help you realize something about yourself very, very deep. Now, for that, for that to be understood, we have to see which houses is landing in. And for you, it's all landing in the 9th. And the 9th is a place that speaks of freedom, deeper study, deeper integration into things that are foreign and different and more unusual. This is about politics. It's about religion, philosophy, spirituality, mindset, school systems. There's lots and lots going on there. And so what you might find is at the moment, there's a lot of information coming at you because the 9th house is hugely informative. A lot of information about the context of life, like how you understand life, what's your understanding, how can you be freer in your judgments? How can you be freer in the things that you know? Like belief systems really come into the 9th house as well. So what is leading you to a feeling of freedom around your beliefs? The 9th house is a place where we're on a great adventure. And so I really feel like there's something building for you that allows you to enjoy greater freedom. Now, as we're coming into tomorrow's Chiron and Sun conjunction, and then followed the next day by the new moon in Aries, this is still taking place in your 9th house. And so whatever's already happened in the last week or so is informing you to make a decision about your identity. And I suspect it's got something to do with a much deeper and fresher perspective of how you see the world and how you're expanding in the world. This ignition point is urging you to kind of start over, maybe to make some sort of declaration to yourself about what you now believe. Maybe it's recognizing that your belief systems as you have had them in the past are no longer serving you. During this time, illusions have been dropping and your sense of survival has been rising up. And, sometimes we can believe all sorts of stuff when our survival's not at risk. But all of a sudden, when you realize this might hurt you, or there's a survival issue going on, all of a sudden anything that's not really real, it kind of just drops away, and you get very certain about what's what. So to me, it just feels like things have been brought into a much clearer focus, and much more of a global focus, and much more of a spiritual oneness focus as well. Now, at the beginning of next week, you're going to be tested. We're all going to be tested in our different ways. And this very strong conjunction between Mars, Mercury, and Saturn at 7 degrees is really asking you, are you ready to take on this new shift? Are you really sure that the things that you've thought about and your new belief changes, and it might be that you're seeing yourself in a different country, or you're seeing yourself with a very different kind of life. Maybe you're completely rewriting your life so that you can have more freedom and the opportunity to travel and adventure more. But whatever identity shift you're making, early next week, you're being tasked with that question. Are you up to this? Are you really going to step forwards in this new identity? Have you actually got the courage of your conviction? And dependent on whether it's a yes or a no, there's a breakout that's coming at the end of next week, 24th to 26th. There's Venus and Uranus both conjuncting in your 10th house, which is high status and highly visible. And then they're both moving into the sign of Gemini, which is bringing in a lot of new friends, and the feeling of wanting to share what you're designing about yourself, realizing about yourself, changing about yourself. It has to land somewhere. And so to me, it feels like from your current state of mind and your current belief system and your current sort of trajectory, like where in the world you're exploring right now, it feels like it's bringing in a whole new set of friends, a whole new set of collaborators, a tribe. It feels like there's a new kind of belonging, and it's not like that belonging that you had in childhood where you kind of just accepted the people next to you, that they were your tribe. Now it's coming from your belief systems, and now it's coming from your agency to make your own mind up. And so what I really see is happening is you've got this belief shift and expansion. There's a lot more truth seeking and truth telling as new perspectives arrive. And as your mind is expanding, it's bringing in a new community direction. And so you might be saying to yourself, I follow what expands me and share it with others. And so that's it in a nutshell. As far as I can see, there's this strong impulse to embrace everyone that feels like you. So it is almost like by being yourself completely, there's a whole new tribe around you feeling that vibration, and they're really getting it. They're really going with it. So I think this is actually quite a good time. I think this is exciting. I think your life is opening up, like a flower, like a flower bud that's just opening up. And so you can sense the fragrance, you can see the beautiful sights of the inner petals. To me, it's like your world is opening up in the same way. So much love to you, Leo. This is a great time. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to explore your purpose on a one-to-one basis, then just get in touch. Just invite me to work with you. All of my details are below. But anyway, have a happy new moon and catch up with you all soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Virgo. So this is a forecast just for Virgo ascendant or rising, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. I'm using a Western tropical whole sign model to do this forecast. And what that means is the whole of Virgo sits in the first house, the whole of Libra sits in the second, and so on and so forth. Now, if when you look at your birth chart, you see actually, and you're like, no, Louisa, that's not how it is. I've got Virgo and Libra in my first house. Then you're probably using Placidus or similar, but it's an indication or a little nudge to you to also listen to the Libra rising. So check out your birth chart. And if you've got Libra in your first house as well as, Virgo, then, listen into that. You might find something very useful there as well. Anyway, what this short forecast is doing is giving you a heads up about the kind of levels of intensity that are going on now. They've already been building for at least a week, and they're building for another 10, 12 days or so. And so this is a really exciting time. Some might say, oh God, it's really disturbing. But there's a lot going on. And so I want to sort of pace you through this so you get an understanding of how you might choose to use this, or it might just sort of give you a bit of a breakthrough if you're a little overwhelmed because there's so much going on. So first things first, there's kind of two stages kind of happening at the same time. Where it's blue, this is showing that there's a lot of planets gathering around here, and we've had Mars going into Aries, Mercury's gone into Aries today. There's a huge Aries energy, and it's building. It's bringing up this sense of urgency that something needs to change. It's like an awakening energy. Something is awakening for you to make a decision about. And so there's a kind of growing pressure as this week completes. Now, at the same time, I'm recording this on the 15th. Tomorrow on the 16th, we've got the Sun and Chiron in a conjunction here. And then on the 17th, they're both in a conjunction with the new moon. So it's a new moon in Aries in a conjunction with Chiron. So this energy is going to be really lit, you know, the 16th, 17th. And so what's really happening is behind the scenes, something has been gathering for you. And then around 16th, 17th, you'll start to make a decision. It's like all the information comes in and you start to coalesce something, you know, something is manifesting in your mind or in your, I was going to say mindscape. And I was thinking, no, that sounds really like effective. And then as I sort of decided to get rid of it, I heard in my head, no, mindscape is the thing you need to say, because like we live in these landscapes, and this is happening in your 8th house. The 8th house is you know, your Aries house in this chart system, but the 8th house is a place of our inner psychology, hence the mindscape. You know, because some people might have a very easy mindscape with not many psychological ups and downs, and other people might have quite a complicated one. You know, the 8th house shows the ancestry, you know, that you come from, your ancestral roots, and the ancestral psychological patterns that you've taken on from your parents, who in turn took it on from their grandparents, their parents, and so on and so forth. And so you might find that there are these roots have just gone through, you know, your ancestral family timeline, and that they're expressing at the moment. The 8th house is a place where we can go deeper into trust in our relationships. So much so that it rules other people's money and how they might share it with you. You know, so like you don't really share your assets with people unless there is some kind of trust or blood relationship. And so this is a place of our nearest and dearest and all the kind of shit that happens with them. So this is a big house and deeply psychological, hence mindscape actually is really true. You know, is your mindscape full of little inner landmines of you know, like I can't say that because my parents judge me this way, and I've got this blame on my shoulders and this shame and this, that, and the other. So if you felt like a gathering of energy of, no, I'm breaking free of this, or all of a sudden memories come back, or someone says something and you get a bit of a trigger and you can't think why, but then all of a sudden you realize, oh God, yeah, that was, you know, the sharing that happened with me and my sister. You know, to me, this is a very rich scene that's going on for you right now, where a lot of inner turmoil from the past is coming up incrementally and kind of surprising you. And maybe, you know, like you look at the news or you're walking around and someone says, oh, did you hear about this? And all of a sudden something from your childhood pops up. So to me, this is a huge month, a massive clearing of gigantic proportions, because we've not had 7 planets in this area for ages. I can't remember a time, in fact. And I haven't actually, you know, honestly, I haven't gone and checked through all the ephemeris. Ephemeris, there you go. I haven't gone and laboriously checked in my whole lifetime, but I can tell you it's not a common picture, really not common at all. So you really are getting a kind of double, triple, quadruple dose of this energy in one go, which means, great, you can clear a lot in one go, but it's likely to feel intense. So I think coming up to the new moon, you're likely to go, enough, I give up, or I'm going to like move and step beyond this pattern. You know, I can't stand it anymore. You're driving me nuts. I'm moving forwards. So there's a decision point. Now, after that, you'll probably feel quite great because you're making a decision. But coming up to next week, so Sunday, Monday, 19th, 20th, there's this really strong conjunction between Mars, Saturn, and Mercury. And most likely, you'll be really feeling the pain or the cost of the decision that you're making. And so it's a test. Like, is your decision really the right one for you? Have you got the balls to carry it out? And by the way, I'm not advocating that you like make this massive like shift. I mean, you know, some people might need to separate from people. I don't advocate for that necessarily, unless absolutely it must happen. You know, I think the 8th house shows us where we can transform and actually move into a more bonded way of being. But that's not always the case. But with Saturn and Mars right together and Mercury in there, it could I should also say there was a time when I didn't speak to my family for 6 months. So, I got some skin in the game here myself. So, there is this time where you're likely to feel like the cost of your beliefs, the cost of your transformation that you're going through right now is too much. And so it's for you to decide, can I stand in this? Can I stand in my power right now? Or do I need to just like step it back a little bit? So it's a recalibration point, the 19th, 20th, which leads to the final part, which is the breakout, which is coming up towards the 24th, 26th, because this is where the impact of everything you're going through right now is going to be focused. And so it's happening, it's coming, it's breaking out into your 10th house, which is very public. It's also where you step forwards and say, this is what I do. This is my purpose. This is where I work. This is my public direction. This is how I'm reshaping my whole purpose and for being here. So it's big. And so if we were to sort of link the two together, because of your deep transformation, because of your yearning for this clearing, because of your vulnerability, your ability to face what situations you've been in, and also consider shared resources responsibly. It's like you're stepping into a new kind of power at a public level. So I really see that you're coming into empowerment at a much deeper level, and that is moving you forwards in life, because once you start to vibrate with that energy, everybody feels it. Everyone knows who you are. And so this is an uncovering of great power. So yeah, I see that this is putting you back on your path and back on your purpose. So I hope that's helpful, Virgo. If you would like me to have a look at your chart and go through, it bit by bit with you at your speed, at the right time for you in the right way, then just get in touch. My details are below. Invite me to work with you and we can take it from there. This is huge. Anyway, I'll stop blowing it up for you, but have a good one, have a safe one, and enjoy the new moon. Bye for now. Hey there, Libra. Let's have a look at your forecast for this period, taking us really on a sort of 10, 11, 12-day journey from where we are today. I'm recording this on the 15th, but I prepared these slides like last week. We've just had a poorly cat and all sorts of things, going on, so I couldn't record. Anyway, this is for you if you've got Libra rising or Libra ascendant. It's the same thing, two different words. And this is using a Western tropical whole sign model. So if you're looking at your first house, if you've got a whole sign chart, you'll see that it's completely saturated with Libra. If you've got a Placidus chart that you look for and look at, you'll notice that you might have Libra in your first house, but also some Scorpio. That's your cue to also listen to the Scorpio forecast as well. Anyway, you'll see here that there's a lot of energy in your 7th house, and then a little like breakout spot here going into your 9th. And so what I'm going to do is just break down these 4 distinct phases I see coming on over the next couple of weeks that I think could really help you know where all your energy is going. So for you, Libra, you'll notice that a lot of this is happening in the 7th house. The 7th house is all about relationships, all about the connections we have with others. It includes our nearest and dearest. It also includes, funnily enough, some enemies and people we might not get on with. Essentially, like this here is you, and this here over here is everyone else. So, this is a lot of energy coming in, either from the people in your life, or you're noticing that they're going through a lot of changes. So you might be going through these physical changes and wanting to create physical change for your relationships, or you might notice that all of your relationships right now seem to be going really nuts. So let's break this down. So right now we're in the gathering stage. Recently Mars went into the 7th house, which can bring about a sense that the people around you are kind of pernickety and defensive and, argumentative. That can often happen. But in our relationships, we might also notice that, our partners are a bit more sexual than usual, a little bit more fun and wanting to enjoy themselves. Then today we've had the moon and also Mercury come into this part of the chart. So, now things are going to start opening up. Our conversations are going to flow a lot more with our partners. And so there's a lot of energy kind of building at the moment. This is the gathering I'm referring to. Now, during this time as well, both Mars and Mercury are going to make an exact conjunction with Neptune. And this is where I think the illusions that we've been holding are dropping, and some of our ideals might also be dropping or changing. This is a very highly idealistic time. You might have ideals about how partners need to be, how they should be in your life. And you might find that your partners seem to have these ideals for you as well. So there's a big thing going on here about the illusions dropping between you and your partners. And you might ask yourself, well, how have these illusions persisted so long? Well, most likely, like most things happen and persist because of some kind of safety issue, security issue. It's a survival issue. And so as issues to do with survival are rising right now, and Aries is all about survival, you're going to really come up close and personal with this sort of big question of what am I made of? What am I about? What kind of partners do I need in my life? What am I prepared to experience and or not prepared to experience? So it's bringing up a lot of questions. Now, we're also coming into the ignition stage. This is where we've got, first of all, on the 16th, that's tomorrow, we've got the sun in a conjunction with Chiron. This is the last one that they are making in the sign of Aries. They've been doing this for the last 8 years. So you might find that there's a pattern in your relationships that's been persisting for 8 years. And it might have grown more over this 8 years, or you might find it's just being this like continuous thread. But Chiron shows us where we feel vulnerable. So this is like our vulnerability with partners, our vulnerability with being seen with partners, understood with partners, anywhere where we feel vulnerable with the people in our lives. This is a thing that's coming up. And so you might feel the pressure to make a decision that helps you move beyond this pattern. This is an indication the pattern could just drop. Now, on the 17th, Chiron is in a conjunction with the new moon. By this time, the moon has caught up. And so this is a chance to start over with this new identity that you have about relationships. It's also fantastic. Like if you're single and looking for a relationship, this could be just the new moon that you need to get that going, really start driving that energy. Now, that's all well and good, so I really see that this ignition point is leading up to a sense of a decision, like this is what I stand for, this is what I'm going to do. And then we're coming on Sunday and Monday of next week, we're coming into the time that is a real pressure point moment, like a crucible, like trial by fire, like where you've made a decision, but now you have to live with the consequences of it. You get to test it. And it's not to say that you're going to reap the consequences straight away. I do think lots of consequences of previous actions could very well come up and be called to be paid for. But you might find that you're being tested around this time. This is highly dynamic and most probably quite frustrating time with Mars, Mercury, and Saturn exactly at 7 degrees together, 777. And so I think this is a time for us to reassess. Am I really committed to this? Am I really changing my identity? Am I really feeling this shift going on? Because if you are, you're probably going to have to put some extra effort in. So this is really asking you if it's worth it. And then we're coming to a breakout period, the 24th, 26th. The 24th, you've got Venus and Uranus coming together in your 8th house, which is a place where you can build trust in your partners. So this could be a massive breakthrough with your partners. But, from the 24th and then on the 26th, when Uranus also goes into Gemini, you're going to have both of them in Gemini, in your 9th house of freedom, of liberty, of an open mind, of a feeling of a big sort of go, go, go. It's like you're on an adventure. So to me, I really feel like as you put these four kind of momentums together, this is a relationship turning point. And I've written here honesty, commitment, truth, and a new understanding. So there's something fresh that's cracking open in your relationships. And, the ninth house, it's not just about the adventure, it's about your core truth. It feels spiritual. It feels like a much higher context. So to me, it feels like your relationships are about to go through an upgrade, where they're reflecting your core truth. And so I think this is a very special time for you, Libra. And it's quite possibly a time when you feel really out of sorts as well, because, there's so much in your opposing sign to your ascendant. This is likely to make you feel very unbalanced, but stick with it. I really think some good stuff can come from it. So I hope that's helpful to you. If you want to learn more about your individual chart, maybe you want to know, maybe you'd like to see how this is going to play out in your chart, not in a general one, where I can look at your sun and your moon and everything all together and how that all dances and marries up, then just get in touch. Invite me to work with you. My links are below. I look forward to collaborating at any point. So wishing you a great, happy new moon and hopefully catch up with you all soon. Lots of love. Hey there, Scorpio. So we've got the new moon in Aries coming up, and it's ruled by Mars. Mars is in the sign of Aries, and Mars just happens to be one of your rulers. So this is, I think, quite a special time. Now, before I dive into why I think it's special, I just want to preface this reading with the fact that this is a whole sign Western tropical model that I'm using here. What that means is if when you look at your birth chart, you see that you've got the whole of Scorpio in your first house, then you're in the right place. Now, you might find if you use Placidus to do your chart, you might find that you've got Scorpio and Sagittarius all in your first house. If that's so, then that's your little nudge from the universe to also listen to the Sagittarius reading as well, because it will be quite helpful for you. So what I'm going to do here, Scorpio, is I'm going to be talking about your the next 2 weeks and how you might choose to handle this energy. And of course, we're talking about the lead up to the new moon on Friday. There's a lot of movement in Aries at the moment. You'll see there's a lot going on here in the 6th house. I might share a little story with you as well, actually. The 6th house is about our health. It's also about our day-to-day living, like how you organize your life. It's also about your money as it comes in and out. And it also rules your pets. A couple of weeks ago, my husband went away, and he went away to Italy. When he came back, he brought like a cold with him or a flu or something, and then I got ill, and so we like this was at the point where some stuff was in Aries already, and we're really like picking up on that theme. This is actually highlighting my 6th house. And of course, when he was away, that disrupted my work because I was, solely looking after our kids and trying to fit work in. When he got back, of course, I was ill, so my work was still disrupted. Then we all got ill, or like three of us got ill, and the other 2 were just like really tired. And then on Easter Sunday, one of our cats got hit by a car and needed emergency surgery. And for the last 10 days, our life has revolved around keeping this cat alive and nursing its wounds. In particular, it's fallen on my shoulders. And so again, my workflow has been affected. And, it's really kind of touched our family life. And of course, this shows how we manage our money. It's been one of the most expensive months I've ever had in my married life. It's been so expensive. And so it's so funny, when these things started happening, I was like, oh my God, I'm really living in my 6th house right now. So, these are some of the themes that might come up for you if you've got like Scorpio rising, and you might have found already that your 6th house has been activated, like you might have been under the weather, you might have found your work's been disrupted, your life, your usual balance has been disrupted. So it's a very, very strong area. Now, I did say this was going to be good, or it could be really good and quite dynamic. And that's because Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and Mars right now is in his own sign in Aries. And that can really speed things up in terms of your work. So yeah, things can get disrupted, but there's a new clarity that's coming, which I think could be really unstoppable. Also, with Mercury coming out of muddy old Pisces and going into Aries, your communication, in particular your communication to get stuff done at home, is going to suddenly get really lit, like you'll really know what you're talking about. And then this new moon in the 6th house can absolutely help you start to get very, very clear about the running of your life, what you need to drop, what's additional, what's necessary. And there's a beauty about this because, once your life is running smoothly and you can get your money working for you smoothly and everything just is like working perfectly, and you're getting fit, you're getting healthy, you're getting into your own balance again, you're getting your sparkle back. There's a lot to be said for running a tight ship and to be quite efficient in how you're doing that. So I think there's a bit of a challenge coming in, and I do think it could change your identity that you or the identity that you have about how you run your life. But I think that identity shift potentially could really help you know what you're about. So for me, in my experience, we've made some changes. We've now built a cat patio. I never thought I'd have indoor cats. I've got 3 of them. I've never had indoor cats, but now, faced with this is the 2nd cat that's been hit by a car and survived, thankfully. So we've got 2, strangely walking cats now, but we now have a cat patio. So this is forcing us to look with maturity, to look with a fresh set of eyes, to look at how we can get back in our flow in a new way. So this is absolutely, a way to help yourself. And this is where everything gets just like hyper real, like so real that you can't ignore it anymore. You can't just like put it on a to-do list and keep postponing it. You have to face what's going on. Now, if we look at this, initially it starts off as a gathering, Mars going into Aries, Mercury going into Aries, both of them making a conjunction to Neptune. The illusions are dropping, and then all of a sudden the survival kicks in, and survival kicks in because we haven't got time to faff around seeing to our ideals. Sometimes we have the luxury of being able to maintain our ideals, and then other times you have to just get back, kind of strip back to the core of things and just deal with what is and what needs to happen. So for instance, I might like to sit under my red lights and do a few yoga stretches and things like that. I haven't had time to, so I've had to attend to what needs to happen. So I do think there's a stripping back. And in that, you might realize, oh, maybe I'm not that like red light therapy girl anymore, or this is getting you back to what's real. So your illusions are dropping, your survival rises. Now at the time of the 16th, when we've got the sun in a conjunction to Chiron, this is the last conjunction of the sun and Chiron in the sign of Aries. They've done this for the last 8 years. This is the last one. So anything you've been trying to heal or come to terms with in your life over the last 8 years, I've just thought of another one. So it's interesting actually, because I can think of a couple of things like tomorrow I'm having my back realigned on the day of the sun and Chiron conjunction, and I haven't had it realigned for about 9 years. So that really fits the picture. But also 9 years ago, I moved to Portugal, and right now I'm really feeling this need to integrate a lot more than I already have. The original crisis of moving to a new place, getting familiarized with a new place whilst also raising kids and starting a business, and it feels like we've got to a stage now where I can do this next step, which is to get more integrated. And of course that would affect the smooth running of my life, and so that's also working. So you can see how this works together, what's been going on for 8 years and how does this move how do we move beyond this pattern? So you're starting to change your identity. Your identity is shifting. Now, around next week, the 19th, 20th, that's Sunday and Monday, things are going to really tighten up, and there's a very strong, potent conjunction. Now, this is where you get really real to the choices you've made. And you work out the costs, like what's involved, what's the reality of this. And, if it seems like it's going to be worth it, then, go for it. There's a lot of strength and courage and vitality to push you through on this. Finally, we've got the breakout period, and that's coming between the 24th and the 26th. By the 26th, Venus and Uranus will have met together and both moved into the sign of Gemini in the 8th house. Now, the 8th house is really, I think, going deeper, helping you to trust life at a deeper level. It can show other people's money, other people's resources that you might get access to. But of course, you can't really access somebody else's things unless you've got that love and trust in place first. So it's a place of transformation where you go very, very deep. So, to sum up this reading, like taking you through the next 10 to 12 days or so, and then obviously beyond that, because what's set in motion now is going to run and run and run. We're really working on renovating your health, your work, your daily reality that's right in your face, the crisis that comes up, the healing, the deep emotional processing. And what it's giving you is the ability to respond to what's real and to allow it to transform you, as simple as that. So I hope that's helpful to you, Scorpio. If you'd like to go deeper with me in a personal session, then just invite me to work with you. All of my links are below, and I'm wishing you a beautiful new moon. Lots of love. Hey there, Saji. How you doing? So this is a forecast to take you through what I think is a really interesting 10, 11, 12 days coming up. I'm recording this. It's just about to go into the 16th, like 15th, the late evening of the 15th of April. I've been meaning to do this since last week, but we've had a lot of things going on in my household. But what I see coming up is we've got this very involved process, and I can see 4 really big steps we're taking right now, and I just want to share those with you. Now, this is using a Western whole sign tropical model. So when you look at your chart, if you see that you've got Sagittarius in the first house, that's great. If you see you've got Sagittarius and Capricorn, then that's a little nudge to listen to Capricorn too, because there'll be something relevant in there for you. Now, when you look at this, you'll see there's a very busy 5th house here and a little nudge into the 7th. And so what I'm going to do is talk you through some of the energies going on. We've got a lot of things. We've got 7 things in Aries right now: Moon, Mercury, Neptune, Mars, Saturn, the Sun, and Chiron. 7. Wow, that's nuts. And Aries is a very real sign. It really shows us where we are developing courage, where we don't suffer fools gladly, where we're a lot more dynamic and a lot more straightforward, and where we absolutely want to follow our own way. This isn't about everyone else. This is about your way. Now, it just so happens that the 5th house has a lot to do with kids and passion and the things that you love. This is a place of the heart. I heard it tonight on in my community call described as the inner child, the place that brings us to potential joy. Hence why children can originate in here. We can conceive in the 5th house and we can birth in the 5th house. And of course, our children end up being a product of our 5th house as well. So, it's a big one if you've got kids, and if you're considering kids as well, if you're pregnant. But it's also great for people that like to create things, because this is such a creative place. Now, at the moment, we've got Mars in there. Mercury and the Moon have also just gone in. And they're all making little conjunctions all around here at the moment. And this is really bringing up this sense of something coming. I can feel it. There's an awakening energy. I'm feeling this buzz. I'm feeling kind of itchy. I want to do something. And it feels just like really intense, this intense yearning. And that, I think, is bringing us to the next stage. which is really coming in strong today because it's now just gone midnight. It's on the 16th of April. And today we've got the Sun and Chiron in a conjunction. They have come into a conjunction in Aries 8 times. This is the last time. The next time they come into a conjunction, it'll be in Taurus. So there is a story, an 8-year-old story that's just been wiped out at the moment. And this new moon happens on the 17th, is in a conjunction with Chiron. So to me, this is helping us move beyond our previous hurts. You know, this is helping us start something new. So you might ask yourself, you know, where in my identity do I have some pain about personal joy? Or where in my personal identity have I experienced a real wound or vulnerability, you know, to do with children or to do with my creativity or to do with my passion, to do with my joy, to do with my intimacy? You know, you can see how it runs. So anywhere where there's, sorry, because I said, oh, you might be itching with all this energy, I'm now scratching. Auto suggestion, so strong, isn't it? So there is this new start. This is new potential to, I'm itching here now. This new potential to completely rewire and turbocharge your potentials for joy. So it's big. You know, this is a new identity for you, because when you make that decision, that's it. You've made the decision. And so the next step, which is coming in on Sunday, Monday, you can say Tuesday as well. We've got this very tight conjunction at 7 degrees. We've got Mercury, Mars, and Saturn all working together. Now, they are still technically in a conjunction with Neptune too, but these three are all at the same degree. And during that time, there's a very tight focus, a very strong impulse to get something done. And so I think this is really going to test your current decision, your current mindset, because you'll get to see the consequences of what happens from your decisions. And so I think this is a very decisive time. And you might be like, yeah, I made a really good choice there. Or you might think, oh God, I oversold things there. I need to sort of like wind this back in. But it's a very testing time, suffice to say. But from those tests, it's coming a huge energy, which I'm calling the breakout phase. And it's landing on the 24th to the 26th. So on the 24th, we've got Venus and Uranus really at the far end of Taurus, and they come together in a conjunction. And then Venus hops into Gemini. And then on the 26th, Uranus goes into Gemini too. And this is such a rush. You know, both Venus, like Venus going into your 7th house, is considered to be quite a beneficial thing. You know, it's a great place for Venus to be in. You know, she's all about relationships. The 7th house is about relationships. You know, she's about flow and generosity and sharing, which is perfect in relationships. And then Uranus comes along as well, really showing surprising, possibly chaos in your relationships, and not chaos. Not all chaos in relationships is a bad thing. You know, it could be that like your partner gets a new job, or there's some news that, you know, is going to affect you coming from your partner. I noticed this. My husband's, you know, when Uranus went over my 7th house, like my 7th house cusp, my descendant, all of a sudden, you know, my husband's work was really changing. So it's having a knock-on effect. So you can have these like little surprises, but not necessarily bad surprises. You know, it could be that because of the work, you're moving to a new place, but it's a really great new place. So it feels like there's a lot of action taking place to do with love, to do with relationships. Now, if you are single, the 5th house is also a place where we meet our partner. And then the 7th house is kind of where we start to go steady a little bit, you know, where we start to enjoy each other's company. So this is also potentially a new relationship coming in. But essentially, this is about a relationship of joy, a new relationship of personal expression. So yeah, creativity, desire, joy, risk, relationship expression, and then being seen by the other. And so, you know, this is one way you might think about it. I honor what lights me up and I share it openly. So yeah, this is a great one for you, Sagittarius. I think this is a lovely movement forwards that you're going through. And I wish you lots of luck with it. Now, if you would like me to look at your personal chart and help you understand it at a very unique, very you level, then just invite me to work with you. All of my details are below. But however you use this information and whether you choose to work with me or not, I absolutely wish you a beautiful time of it. This is a very, very special time indeed. So lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Capricorn. So this is your forecast taking you on the next part of your journey over the next. When I first started this, started creating my slides, it was like the next 2 to 3 weeks. And now it's like the next 10 to 12 days. There's been a lot going on in April so far, hasn't there? So what I want to do is really give you a heads up really for the rest of the month, like what themes are coming up and how you might manage them. As you can see, there's a lot going on down here. And what I've done is I've broken down this period of time into 4 distinct phases. Funnily enough, I say distinct phases. These two, the first two, are kind of slightly fused together, but they both have a different purpose. So I'm going to pace my way through it to help you understand this time and also to know how to maximize this for your own personal use. Now, this is for you as somebody with Capricorn rising or Capricorn ascendant. Now, I just want to clarify, this is also made using a whole sign Western tropical model. Now, when you look at your birth chart, I'm assuming that you've got the whole of Capricorn in the first house and the whole of Aquarius in the second house, the whole of Pisces in the third. But if when you look at your birth chart, you see that you've got both the symbol for Capricorn and also Aquarius in this first house, that's a nudge that also Aquarius is of relevance to you. So now I've got that out the way, let's dive right in. So unless you've been under a rock, you'll know that right now we've got 7 things in the sign of Aries right now. I said things very purposefully because Chiron isn't technically a planet, but we've got the moon, Mercury, Mars, Neptune, Saturn, the sun, and Chiron. That's a lot. That's a hell of a lot. And what's more, we've got a very, very tight conjunction coming up, which is tightening. And around the 19th and 20th, we've got Mercury, Mars and Saturn all at 7 degrees in the sign of Aries. So this is a very, very potent time. So what I'm going to do is piece this together and help it make sense. So really over the last week, maybe even a little bit longer than that, we've been gathering together in this Aries energy. And this Aries energy has been gathering in your 4th house, right at the bottom of your chart, which is symbolically where we have our roots, our family, our home. This is our point of security. It's a very, very private part of our chart. And so that instantly tells me that there's something very deep and private and foundational going on in your life right now. Now, you happen to have Aries, in this part of the chart showing that, behind closed doors in the safety of your own home and your family, you take quite a dynamic approach to your life and how you want it organized. You want to lead at home and to feel very comfortable that you can move fluidly and directly towards what kind of experience you're hoping for. So with all these planets here, there's a lot up in the air. There's lots of new thoughts, sort of gathering energy of, I need a change of some sort. My roots need to be, kind of fixed together in a new way. So, instantly I think, oh, you're doing some like work on your house, or maybe it's time to move house, or maybe your house isn't quite big enough or it needs to change. To me, this is really speaking about, a real sort of change going on at a home level. Now you've also got this part of your chart highlighted as well, where this is where Venus and Uranus are coming into your 6th house at the end of this month, 24th to 26th. There's a real palpable shift. And this is also kind of home related as well. The 6th house I see as being like, like you see sometimes in music videos, you see like there's a mixing desk behind the scenes, some music producer, and he's got these faders going up and down and he's controlling what you get to hear and all the different instruments playing within a piece. And so I really see this as being the control center of your life, the 6th house. It's showing how you manage your money, how you get up in the morning, how you manage your routine, your house, your family, and your health, very, very importantly. And so it's a real control center. And so to have Uranus coming in here is suggesting that there's an imminent shift in the way you organize yourself. So when you put these two together, that there's a feeling of an uprush of home change, and then to change your stability and to work on your roots. And then there's an incoming kind of fresh breeze that wants to rework, maybe turn upside down the way you manage your life. To me, it feels like there's a very big change coming. And most likely it's for the better, because you're ruled by Saturn. You've got Saturn in your 4th house. Now, Saturn is a little bit difficult in the 4th house, I have to say, but if anyone can make it work, it's you, because Saturn's your ruling planet. And so it's like all of your energy is going down into the home, so that you can work on your foundations very successfully. So, okay, here's what's going on. So right now we've got this moment where the illusions that you have around your home and your needs are dropping and changing, and in its place is this feeling of, no, this is what I need for my survival. So sometimes, like for instance, when you're ill, like in your normal life, sorry, you'll have all these extra habits and things that you do, and things that you enjoy, and they might be a nice to do. But when the shit hits the fan and maybe you're ill or under the weather, or you lose a job or something like that, we cut everything back and we go into a survival kind of mechanism. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to be in a survival mechanism, but right now, for all of us, our illusions about what we need are dropping, our nice to haves are dropping, and the survival fader is coming up in our life. We're starting to realize, okay, well, I've had a lot of distractions, but actually this is the core of what it's about. And so there is this like upcoming awakening energy at home, letting you know what you really need to have secure for your future, what feels good. And it really is about getting rid of these ideologies that maybe are confusing the situation. So there's a lot of direct thought that's kind of coming in right now. Now, it just so happens also that today, I'm recording this on the 16th, we've got the Sun and Chiron in a conjunction together. This is the last one of a series of 8 over 8 years. And this to me is an indication that there's something about your identity that's shifting. So over the last 8 years or so, there would have been a pattern, possibly a trauma one. You've had Chiron going through your 4th house. So maybe something from your childhood, something that maybe has stuck with you, and it's a recurring pattern. But anything that hasn't worked for you at home has left you feeling very vulnerable. It just doesn't feel good at all. It's being like you're coming to the end of that pattern, and I don't know if you're like cutting that pattern out, or if you're just saying, okay, this pattern has to shift from now on in. I'm not going to hold this anymore. This is uncomfortable. This is not for me. So there is a shift in your identity, and of course, if you're shifting in your identity, there is a start over point, isn't there? It's a decision point. There's a decision that's coming in, and of course, tomorrow on the day of the new moon, there's obviously Chiron is still in a conjunction with the sun. So you've got the sun, moon, and Chiron together. This is a new start to clear away your vulnerability and to move forwards and to kind of solve the problem or the issue or the experience that you've been having for 8 years, and to move forwards with confidence. So I like that. I think that's a really great opportunity for you. So yeah, like where we are right now, if I could point at your chart and say, you are here, you're here and here at the same time. I would say more here, because you're coming up to the decision point. Feels like enough has happened in the last few weeks to really let you know what you need to do. So you're making a decision, and it's a fresh new start, very much directed around your family, your foundations, all of your responsibilities and how they sit and rest on your shoulders. And then the next part of this, which is happening like Sunday and into Monday, and you'll be still feeling it on Tuesday for sure, is the tightening of all these aspects. So, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn together. This is very insightful and kind of very sort of cutting. It can really cut away at something, really help you see things very clearly without the fog. You know, all three of them have moved away from Neptune, interestingly, and Neptune is a very, very foggy planet. So this is really bringing you into clarity, but it's giving you a test. You know, it's showing you if you do decide to carry this out, if you do decide on your new journey where you're going, then there's a test, there's a cost, there's a consequence to your decision. Are you ready for that consequence? Can you work with that consequence? And you know, the effects of what it is that you're doing. So that, you know, don't be surprised if you get tested early next week. I always find, you know, when I make a decision about my life, it's like I can hear the universe in the background. So like, for instance, if I say, oh yeah, I'm going to you know, I'm going to move somewhere else, you know, I'm going to move over here, it's going to be great, blah blah blah. And then immediately it's like clockwork. Before I start to enjoy that new sense of my move, stuff will come up to test me, to see if I'm really strong. Like, do I really hold the intention of that change enough to be able to actually activate that change? It's like clockwork. So, you know, when I make a big statement about myself now, I often kind of anecdotally say to the universe, of course, you don't have to test me on this. I do know I really am going to go ahead with this. But anyway, after the testing phase, we're coming into a very quick, fast moving moment astrologically. So by that point, Venus comes into an exact conjunction with Chiron, with Uranus, sorry, at the tail end of Taurus. This is interesting because this is changing our possibilities, changing our thoughts about our money, and how we work with our resources. Taurus is absolutely about resources, but also it's encouraging you to step into passion, and to understand your passion from a new perspective. So something unexpected, something exciting. It feels like there's a moment of excitement, you know, something feels really fresh. And then on the 24th, Venus goes into the 6th house, showing that you're ready to initiate your new change and bring flow and ease into your life. And then on the 26th, Uranus comes back in, and it's like, there it is. So just to give you a heads up, like last year, you got a little taster of this because Uranus went into your 6th house on the 7th of July for a few months. So over the summer, you'd have felt that new sense of what you were wanting to achieve. Now you get to really experience it. So I hope that little nudge from last year helps you to sort of feel into that energy. So to summarize then, you know, this is helping you have a new start at your home, with your roots, with your family foundations. It's also giving you a clear look at your responsibility and also how you want to restructure your daily life. So, you know, if there was an intention you might hold during this period, you know, it's, I build a life that supports who I'm becoming, you know, because who you are becoming, you know, down here, like the 4th really shows us our internal behaviors that have come from our childhood and from our roots. So whoever it is that you decide to be, Uranus right now is going to help you reorganize your life so that you can become it. So I hope that's helpful, Capricorn. So it's a lot of energy in, you know, a very short space of time, 10 days now. And beyond. Now, if you want me to look at your individual chart, then just get in touch, invite me to work with you. My links are below. But yeah, wishing you a beautiful new moon. May your new starts bring you a lot of peace and joy, and a feeling of glory too. So lots of love, and catch you next time. Bye for now. Hello, Aquarius. How you doing? So, I mean, this is a big time for you because, you know, you've got Pluto going through your 1st house, and Uranus, which is one of your ruling planets, is about to change signs into a fellow air sign, which I think is rather exciting. Now, what I want to do in this short forecast is to talk through all this strong Aries energy and what you might choose to do with it. And I've identified it into kind of 4 phases. I did set up my slides at the beginning of April, and a lot of stuff came into my life very unexpectedly. the Aries stuff in my 6th house, and it's delayed this recording, but I'm here now. And so I'm going to talk you through these phases so that you can manage the second half of the month and hopefully enjoy it and recognize that there's a great new change coming in. So before I do get going, I just want to let you know that this is performed using a whole sign Western tropical model. What that means is if you look at your birth chart, you should see that you've got the whole of Aquarius in your 1st house, the whole of Pisces in your 2nd, the whole of Aries in your 3rd. That's if you're using a whole sign chart. If when you look at your chart, you see that you've got Aquarius and Pisces in your 1st house, chances are you're looking at a Placidus chart. But if you do see that you've got something other than Aquarius in your 1st house, then listen to that sign. So this is for you with some, as somebody with Aquarius rising, or you might call it ascendant. So with that aside, let's dive in. So unless you've been under a rock, you probably already know that right now we've got 7 things. I said things because it's one of them is not a planet, but we've got 7 celestial bodies in the sign of Aries in your 3rd house. This is intense. It's insane. I've not seen astrology like this. And this is the year where I'm saying I've not seen astrology like this every single month, guaranteed. I mean, this is uncanny. There's something very big going on right now. And, from the start of this month, we've had this kind of gathering of Aries energy. So first of all, we have Mars coming into the sign of Aries, and then we also had Mercury coming into the sign of Aries. Already, we had the Sun in Aries. We also had Saturn, Neptune, and also Chiron. So there's a lot going on there anyway. But with this gathering of energy, it feels like there is this awakening, this stirring, this kind of call to action, this winding up of all of your energies to have more courage, to have a very brave voice, and to feel like you're taking action. And I would say this is in your local community. This is in the place of your mindset, of where you're learning, of where you socialize with people. It can also be a place where your siblings are a lot more important than usual. Like all of a sudden they're back in your life again. Same with cousins, same with your old school buddies. This is a very sort of formative place where you learn about the world. And so right now it feels like your sort of context of the community that you either came from and or belong to right now is that sort of community experience, like your home is here and then there's this community experience around it. This is what I'm talking about. So something big is changing within your community. It really feels like your communications and your relationships and how social you are being affected. So I really think there's this building of your voice within this community, and this very strong desire to start to direct it or to funnel the energy somewhere. Maybe you've got an idea of what your community needs and maybe you're the person to do it, but there's a very strong need to be important and to do something and to take charge, take action within your community, or maybe within the community of your friends. Now, if we also add in the fact that like Pluto is in your 1st house, that's also a very powerful transit. This is where you're coming into your power. So this is also mirroring this within your community. Now, there's something else that's about to happen, and that is Uranus is about to go into your 5th house. This is a place of free expression. This is where you're feeling passionate, connecting into joy. It can absolutely relate to children, like maybe the birthing and conception of them, but it could be the birthing and conception of a new relationship, of a project that is really close to your heart. I mean, essentially, children, new relationships, and projects that you're passionate about. This is all about your experience of the heart. How are you bringing the heart forwards into the world so that you can, so that you're doing what really matters. And so, we're really working in these 2 areas. So, like I said, since the beginning of April, there's been this gathering energy kind of alerting you that something needs to change. And then today, I'm recording this on the 16th, really early in the morning. We've got this Sun and Chiron conjunction just here towards the end of Aries. And this is reminding you that something about the community or your early experience that didn't work, that has caused you pain, that maybe has made you feel a bit vulnerable, that part of your journey is not ending. I don't want to predict that it's going to end, but it's changing. And you've actually got a release point here if you choose to use it. You know, the Sun and Chiron have been meeting in Aries for the last 8 years. From next year, they will, when they meet every year, they're going to be in Taurus for again the next seven or 8 times. So, you know, we are coming to the end of, you know, a vulnerability journey within your community. So anywhere where you felt exposed or not quite good enough or something like that, if there's a persistent thought that has kind of like taken your feet from underneath you, you know, this is the thing that could very well change right now. And obviously when you decide to release something that you're experiencing, it's changing your identity. Now it just so happens that this new moon that's happening on the 17th, so that's tomorrow, is also very much about changing your identity and getting much clearer about yourself, and also getting ready to tell people about it, to sort of express who you are. And so this is strong. Now, next week from Sunday and into Monday, there's a very tight aspect at 7 degrees in the sign of Aries. We have got Mercury, Mars, and Saturn really tight together. Now this is going to test your theory. So if you've said, okay, right, going forwards, I'm going to set up this community, I'm going to dive into this, I'm providing a service, and I'm going to lead on it, I'm a good leader, blah, blah, blah. Like if by next week, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, that's too much. Oh my God, I don't think I can handle that. You know, this is the time when you're going to get tested. So you're kind of getting if anything, you're getting to practice in your head your new vibration and what you're going to be doing. But like next week, the rubber hits the road and you really feel the pain of your decisions and or the pressure of your decisions. So it might not feel painful. It might feel exciting. You might think, yes, this is what I wanted. But this is a testing period. You're either going to go deeper into it or suddenly have a realization, go, okay, it's too much. I just need to back off a little bit. Either way, it's going to be good because it's helping you measure your growth in terms of what you're deciding for yourself. So just to recap so far, the energy has gathered. It's made you aware that a change is coming. Right now, you're at this point where you're about to make a decision about who you are and what your role is, especially in terms of your community. And next week, you'll really feel even more into it. And you'll either say, absolutely, it's definite. This is absolutely what I'm going to do. Or you're going to say, oh, that feels too much for me. But maybe I will step forwards a little bit. So, you know, it's a question of measurement and it will help you know how to move forwards. And then we're coming to the last part, right towards the end of the month. And this is as Venus, which has been in your 4th house, and Uranus are coming to their end of stay in the sign of Taurus. Venus first, she makes a conjunction with Uranus on the 24th at home. And I guess any time we make a deep decision about ourselves, it's going to shift how we experience life at home. You know, it shows... you know, it reflects your changing perspective of yourself. And so this is really saying, okay, well, you've made a decision and you're aware of the consequences. And now things are going to move forwards, and they're going to move forwards very fast. You know, so how are you going to express yourself more freely as you live through your new decision? And so, yeah, a couple of days later, you know, by the 26th, they're both in the sign of Gemini. And, you know, Venus in the 5th house can absolutely bring in some great news in terms of things that you're passionate about. It can absolutely help you with a creative new start. It's absolutely fantastic. You know, if you're about to meet somebody, this would be a great time to meet somebody. And then Uranus coming in can show, can show the start of an exciting new relationship or an exciting new start. The likes of which you'll be very passionate about. I remember actually when Uranus crossed into my 5th house, he didn't cross over with Venus, he crossed over with Jupiter. And Jupiter and Venus are both benefics, they're both beneficial planets. So for me, the year that Uranus and Jupiter crossed over my 5th house cusp, that was the year I met my husband and also conceived my first child. It was a really big change for me. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that that's going to happen to you or saying, oh, watch out. But, you know, Uranus plus a benefic going into your 5th house is absolutely giving you a deep dive into everything that is going to help you express yourself to the highest potential that you're really hoping for. You know, it's really building something fun and joyful and self-expressed, really creative. So yeah, this is a very active and talkative and communicative stage in your life. And, you know, from the 3rd to the 5th, you know, this is changing your communication, your mindset, your learning, but then your expression and how you manage your creativity and your voice. And so you might take some peace from this statement: I speak what is my truth and I create from it. So there is definitely something strong coming from this, and it's likely to change the way you are within your community and also help you feel like a creator after so long. And the final piece is that Uranus and Pluto have absolutely been in a trine for months now, connecting your 1st and the 5th house. And it really starts to feel like they're coming into action. It really starts to feel like as you've changed and shifted as a person, you're now really starting to get creative with that energy. So this is your time, Aquarius. This feels really good. So I hope that's helpful. Now, if you would like me to look at your chart personally, on a one-to-one basis, then just invite me to work with you. My links are below. And, you know, I love to deep dive into people's charts, especially for people, you know, like it's no mean feat having Pluto in your 1st house. You know, this is a time of massive restructuring, and a time, you know, where a very new and different you is coming forwards. So anyway, have a brilliant new moon and the rest of the month, and catch up with you real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Okay, Pisces, let's have a look at your forecast then over the next couple of weeks. I hold my hand up and say, I meant to do this a couple of weeks ago. These slides have been gathering dust in my Canva account for a little bit, but we had a very poorly cat that needed 24/7 care and attention after being hit by a car, and I've been very, very distracted managing all of that and my life. So recording had to just be put aside, but now I'm here to really spend some time and show you how these energies are manifesting right now for you. So, you know, unless you've been under a rock, you know, you'll know that there's a lot of energy right now in your 2nd house in the sign of Aries. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, how to manage this, especially coming up to the new moon. But more excitingly, what's going to happen as Venus and Uranus are approaching into your 4th house. So yeah, big time. Before I do dive into that, I just want to say I'm using a whole sign Western tropical model here, assuming that when you look at your birth chart, you've got Pisces filling the whole of your 1st house and Aries filling the whole of your 2nd house. If when you look at your birth chart, you see that you've got Pisces and Aries in your 1st house, then that's your nudge to also listen to Aries. That will also be useful to you. So let's go. So right now we've got 7 things in the sign of Aries. We've got the moon, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron, and also the sun. Not in any particular order there, but they are all residing in Pisces right now. In Aries. And Aries is synonymous with your 2nd house. The 2nd house is about how you earn money, how you value yourself, where your self-esteem's at. This is very much about feeling secure, you know, and having all the resources that you might need to be able to do what you need to do in your life. So this is a time, I think, where your security is really changing and you're ready to take some action. Now, is this going to be easy? Well, I mean, you've got Saturn and Neptune in your 2nd house. They are a real tough combo. And, you know, you're not alone. Like everyone has got Saturn and Neptune somewhere in their chart, making them get real about something. And so what's going on for you is you're getting real about money and about your personal value. Like, who values you? Do you value yourself more importantly? And how does that value like lift your life up? Are you feeling like you deserve a good life? So everything to do with earnings and money and putting a price on you, but also, do you feel like you have purpose? I think that's a deeper question there. So all of this is coming up right now, and it's coming up to be some of it coming up to be released and let go of. You'll find that you've got some attitudes towards money and what you deserve that you could really just let go of, that probably are harming you rather than helping you. But new thoughts are likely to be generated for you in this part of your life. And so maybe you're getting these great new ideas about a business, or great new ideas and instincts about your work. To me, there are ways of managing your resources much more effectively, and you're ready to take action. More importantly, you're ready to face it. Now, this is something I want to talk about right now, because what's happened in the last 2 weeks is there's been a gathering. It's almost like all the different characters have been coming into Aries, and now they're here for the big party in your second house. And with this, because Aries is quite a confrontational sign, the illusions about your money are dropping. You can't hide like under some great big dream anymore. It just feels like you have to get real. Aries always raises what we need in terms of survival. And so this is a time where, any beliefs and ideals about how money should be, you have to just park right now. You have to put it to the side and say, okay, well, maybe when I've got my survival sorted, I'll revisit this. But right now, actually, my ideals can just be shelved for a little bit. This is more about my personal values towards money and surviving. How do I make myself survivable? So it's really looking at what you're made of. And so this energy has been gathering, and now we're coming into the ignition phase. Today in particular, the Sun and Chiron are together right at the end of Aries. Now, they make a conjunction every year. Without fail, the Sun will meet with Chiron every year. Now, for the last 8 years, they've been gathering in the sign of Aries. This is the last one in Aries. It's almost like, there's been a term of school, and they've gone to school for this like part of the term. Next time, it's going to be moving. They're going to have their conversations in the sign of Taurus, but not yet. Right now, we're closing out a period of learning about your vulnerability, about anything that's made you feel ill at ease financially, or ill at ease in terms of your self-esteem. So, if you're aware of a core wound, deservability, like, am I good enough, is usually a big one for the second house. Or how can I make myself good enough? Or, oh my God, how do I prove that I'm good enough? Which is like where you really do a number on yourself. But you're coming to the end of this time. This new moon, so today's conjunction and then tomorrow's new moon in a conjunction with Chiron, is giving you the necessary strength to see what's been going on and to make a different decision, and to say, oh my God, what am I doing to myself? I'm ready to let go of that. Now, maybe you've already let go of that. And Chiron is also a mentor. Chiron's amazing. Once you've faced your chronic wound, you become an expert at it. So this could also be you stepping into your expert mastery new persona. So there is a shift in your identity, because you're not going to put up with anything anymore, or to phrase it better, you're making a better choice, a choice to have more agency and power with your money. But B, you're mastering it. And as you are shifting that, things are going to change. So I really see that right now you're coming into this moment of making a decision to say, enough, that ends here. I'm not carrying that any further. This is an old pattern. This is the old me, and I'm stepping into something new. So yeah, decision points are plenty. Now, from Sunday, Monday, we've got this very, very strong conjunction, which I mentioned before, we're going to have Saturn, Mars, and Mercury exactly at 7 degrees. So 777 in your second house. And this is going to be testing, Saturn and Mars together have a very sort of cutting, incisive view. It really shows you something new, and it really kind of tests you. The way I see it is, if you've already made a decision, you're going to start to see some of the consequences of that decision. Maybe you feel into, oh yeah, this is my new decision. And then by Sunday, you're already thinking, oh my God, I can see how that's going to play out. That's too much. I'm not going to do that. That's not going to work for my money. Nope. And actually, I don't feel like I deserve more at all. I don't feel like my self-esteem is, maybe you're going to move forward too fast and it's going to slightly scare you. So, Sunday and Monday in particular, and a little bit either side, you're going to be becoming aware of the test, the costs of your new position. And that's going to be helpful because it will help you measure your growth, or more importantly, it helps you measure the speed that you're going to move forwards at. Like, maybe it is worth it, but you need to slow that change down. Or maybe you're fine to go super fast. But this is a testing point. This is where you get to make your decision real or not. Is it going to work or not? So there's a lot of big stuff coming up for you to think about. And then as we come towards the last week in April, we've got Venus and Uranus coming together at the end of your third house. They make a lovely conjunction. And to me, this is creating a nice feeling within your community, a nice sense of sudden surprise, sudden release. Maybe you're starting to share with people close to you about your changes, and it can be fun and really unexpected. But then what they both do between the 24th and the 26th, Venus is coming over to Gemini on the 24th, and then Uranus comes over on the 26th. They're both going to the fourth house. Now, the fourth house is an angular house. It's a really important part of your chart, representing your security. Now, of course, if you're shifting something to do with your money, it could have a real knock-on effect to do with your home, your family, and where you live. I think these are linked in together. So I think the decisions you're making right now might involve you moving or changing up, changing down, moving side to side in terms of how you live. I really remember what was going on for me when Uranus came into my fourth house, because I went through some huge changes in the way I live, in the way I was relating to my partner, and also my relationship with my family, my birth family, was shifting. So it's a significant thing that's going on. But I think these are linked. What you're deciding about yourself and your personal value is going to have a knock-on effect in terms of your emotional grounding. And so this is very, very foundational. This is about getting your roots right so you feel safe. So yeah, we can't underestimate the power of your mindset in terms of what you're going through right now. And so when Uranus comes into the fourth house, it's moving and spreading. Your new vibrational set point is going to be determining everything in terms of how you live within your home and within your family. So there's going to be some expression about this. So if I was just to sum it up, you're going through a change in terms of self-worth and money and values, which will affect, but maybe create change to do with your security, home, and your emotional grounding. You're rooting yourself in what feels safe and true, but mostly sustaining. And of course, if you are looking at your work and it's not sustaining you, it's going to really make your rooted life feel terrible. So this is in many ways about alignment. Who are you? And what is supporting you to feel safe in yourself. If it's helping you feel safe, it's going to work. If it's not helping you feel safe, it's really not going to work. So I hope that's helpful for you, Pisces, in understanding that. And of course, there's so much more astrology happening this year, but this is the start of this. And you'll find as you make these changes and integrate them, that by the time July comes along, there's another huge shift, helping you move forwards fast, in a very sort of direct and in an exciting way. So, that's bringing us to the end of this. If you would like to deep dive with me, just me and you and your chart, then just get in touch. Just invite me to work with you. My links are below. I'll be very happy to get involved. So sending you lots of love for this very powerful new moon, this very powerful time that's switching things around for you and changing the foundations. It's really bringing in a whole new foundational basis for your life. Loads of love. Speak soon. And yeah, onwards and upwards. Bye for now. So that brings me to the end of my deep dive into all the signs. I hope you found it helpful. Um, like I said right at the beginning of this video, what's going on now in April, these forecasts sound like, oh yeah, you're restarting your life and it's taking you on this direction. But I did also say it's just the threshold. There's more coming in July and into August when we've got the eclipses as well. So, I mean, this is such a fast-paced year, but this is a huge chunk of it. So enjoy this. What you're becoming right now is going to have a knock-on effect, playing out in July, playing out in August, and beyond that. These events are really, really connected. So loads of love to you. If I can help you at all, just get in touch, invite me to work with you, or come and join my community. We've got about 300 people in the community now. It's free to join. If you want to study within the community, there is a fee, there's a premium membership, but there's a lot going on there. It's where I spend most of my time. So yeah, if you want to connect with me that way, please feel free to do that. Like I said, all of my links are below, and you can also scan that QR code, and that will also take you to my community too. So anyway, loads and loads of love. Take care and connect with you all soon. Bye for now.